I want to thank our partners, Humans, for being here. And before I bring Pierre on stage, please enjoy this video.
Humans.
Humans. Humans. Humans. Humans. Humans.
Humans.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for filling up the room. It's awesome to see so many people here. And I just arrived from South Africa about 48 hours ago, so I'm still a bit jet lagged. I also went out partying last night in the city to never sleep, so I'm going to try to keep the promises of this talk and deliver on at least a couple of those points here at the top without getting thrown off stage or thrown in jail. Since this is a workshop, let's try to make it a little interactive and let's have fun together. In this room, how many people here, by show of hands, have worked with influencers as marketers and paid influencers or managed them through a campaign? All right, a couple of people, but like a third of the room. And how many people are creators who have earned money by working with brands? Hey, a few people. And I assume the rest of you are here for the sex part, right? Okay, got it. Cool. So again, thank you for coming. What I'm going to try to cover is I normally do this talk in about like a longer session. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about two of the questions that we get most often. And they're two of the biggest lies in this space around influencer marketing. The first one is around the fact that follower counts is so important in this industry. Everyone cares about follower count. Everyone pays according to follower count. But does follower count actually matter? And does it relate to anything from an ROI perspective for marketers? The second one is around predictive analytics and whether you can tell as a brand or as a platform whether someone's actually going to sell for that brand or not, right? So I'm going to try to debunk those two, not using opinions, but using data that we've acquired through tons and tons of campaigns used on our platform. We are probably the largest influencer marketing platform outside the US when it comes to emerging markets. We operate in all these different countries, and we work both with big brands like L'Oreal, like Unilever, like Kimberly-Clark, but also with like smaller companies, D2C companies, challenger brands, challenger companies, or even creator-led businesses. So creators that have created their own businesses and are using influencer marketing to help promote it. So the reason I'm showing you this slide is not to punt our business. This is the last slide that will say anything about humans, but rather to tell you that what you're going to see now is basically data-led analysis as to what works and what doesn't work. So first lie. I have more followers, so you should pay me more. What is the value that a brand or a marketer gets from creators? If you can break it down, right? There's 4 things you can expect in a transaction from creators. Insights, people that know a community very well, and from that community are able to share knowledge with you without you having to do like a big research study, but rather, hey, you're an influencer in that space, you know a lot of people, like tell me, what do people think about my brand? How do people feel about it? What's relevant, right? You can get quick insights. Content. So I'm paying you to create content to go into my creative agency, to a production studio, or I can have a whole lot of creators creating a wealth of content I can use for my platform, for my website, and then views and sales. And if you think about it, the first two have nothing to do with number of followers, right? It doesn't matter if you have 1 million followers or 1,000 followers, that doesn't affect the quality of the content you create or the quality of the insights that you can provide. Views and sales, I'm going to show you, are not related to number of followers that somebody has. And so typically, this is how you would pay in the real world for any of those things, right? So consulting fees for insight, production costs for content. And here you might pay for views on a CPM or cost per view basis and sales on a percentage commission basis. So only the last two really are relevant when it comes to, which might be relevant when it comes to number of followers. So what we did is we took all the campaigns that were on our platform over the last 9 months in this specific sample, and we had a look at whether we took all the Instagram reels, all the TikTok posts that were created, how much brands paid creators and how much creators asked to be paid for that content, and whether that was correlated to how many followers they have or how many views that content got. Does everyone know what correlation means, or what correlation analysis is? Does anyone not know? Jennifer, can you explain to everybody what correlation is, please?
Maybe like the correlation. Oh my God.
I know. Sorry. We just met like yesterday over drinks, and I just wanted to put her on the spot now. So correlation basically means that these two data points move forward together. It doesn't mean that one follower equals one view, but it means that if your followers increase by 10, then your views might increase by a similar amount of, by a similar ratio, right? And similar thing on pricing. If you increase the pricing by a factor of 10, then your views will increase by a factor of 10. If the number is 1, it means it's perfect correlation. If the number is -1, it means it's like perfect inverse correlation. And 0, it means the numbers have nothing to do with one another. So if you just look at it here, number of followers is really highly correlated to Reels rates and TikTok rates for creators in terms of what brands were willing to pay across these thousands of campaigns. If you look at views, you can see that they're actually not correlated at all. And so what that means is that followers is not correlated to views, and pricing is not correlated to views. So you're not, if somebody has a lot of followers and you pay them more, it doesn't mean you're going to get more views. It just, you can't predict it. You can't say there's a ratio of X, even though we all do that. We all have like these little kind of napkin maths that we use, and we say, oh, divided by 10, divided by 4, whatever else. So you cannot predict. There's such huge variance in the numbers. So paying someone according to number of followers, if you're aiming for eyeballs, doesn't make sense. Secondly, as we all know, there's a huge amount of fraud in the influencer marketing space still today. Between 20 and 25% of audiences in the US are fake. Hacked accounts, inactive accounts, bots, follow-for-follow accounts, a whole lot of things that is not valuable for marketers. And when we pay influencers by follower, when we set the pricing by follower, we're creating a bad habit. It's really cheap to buy fake followers. It's really easy to inflate your number of followers by working with other creators, without actually building anything close to influence. And so if we say, I'm going to pay you more because you have more followers, we're inciting this behavior, right? And it's really then easy to arbitrage. I can buy 1,000 followers for $5, real price. 1,000 followers for $5, right? All right, so 10,000 followers for $50? If I can get paid $500 for that post, I'm going to make my money back really quickly, right? So we're inciting the same bad behavior. 3/4 of influencer marketing campaigns today have fake followers or creators that artificially inflated the audience willingly on the campaign. Not all of them, and some of them have fake followers even though they don't mean to, but at least some of them have inflated their numbers. And it means two things. It means that it's easy to do it, and we should stop making it so easy to do it. And secondly, marketers and agencies are still not looking at that fraud and caring about that fraud up front. So, to put a final nail in that coffin and kill that dead horse and whatever other metaphor you want to use here, followers amount is also not correlated to any meaningful metric when it comes to ROI. Not impressions, not clicks, not units sold, not sales value, not click-through rates, not click-to-conversion ratio, not actual sales ROI. Followers amount is not correlated to anything that you care about as a marketer when it comes to influencer marketing campaigns. So, that's the first lie. And that's the lie that we use, that we follow the most in the industry today. Everybody, when you think about influence marketing, the first thing you think about is how many followers somebody has equals to either how influential they are, how much they should be paid, or whether they're going to respond to you or not. Let's talk about the second lie that works. So, second lie, which is, anybody paid attention? What was the second one? I forgot. No? Yeah?
Is that you can predict the outcome's going to be.
Thank you very much. What's your name?
Pierre.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Cool. Can you predict which creators will help you sell or not? This was a study from a company called Thomson in 2016 that said that the average ROI of influencer marketing is 6.5x. Take $1, put it in our machine, we will give you $6.5 back of influencer marketing goodness. Thank you very much. And it created a lot of headlines and a lot of hype for influencer marketing. We all know this is a really hyped industry, and a lot of spend is going into influencer marketing. It's growing about 38% year on year in terms of brand spend in that space. But what's interesting about that data, beyond the headline, is that the variance in results is huge. This is what it looks like when you saw actually from that survey what people said that their influencer marketing ROI was. And it doesn't look like a beautiful, predictable bell curve. It looks like a canyon, the opposite. And quite frankly, from this study and from this data, you'd think that you're probably better off as a marketer taking your money, going to a blackjack table than putting in influencer marketing. You can make a lot of money from it, but you can also have more chances of losing it, right? So we asked the same question now in 2022, looking at all of our Q1 data from e-commerce platforms using the Humans platform, DTC platforms using our platform, and try to understand whether we could predict it and what were the patterns in that data. And this is just the sample data used for that study. First finding, 23% of creators were responsible for 87% of sales generated. And 5% were responsible for 52% of the sales generated. So the 80-20 rule is alive and well in influencer marketing. And if you're going to work with a small sample of influencers, there's a very high chance that you're actually not going to get any results. It's like, again, it's like flipping a coin, except that you've only got 1 out of 5 chances of getting results from that. So
did you segment this like by product category by chance, or is there some that were spiked higher? Or
so great question.
Sorry, I didn't mean that.
No, can I get to it at the end? I'll come back to you as the first question if that's all right with you. But the answer is, actually I'll answer now. The answer is, across all product categories, the same rule seems to apply. There are some categories where we found different factors that might apply, but nothing that was kind of statistically relevant. So, 80-20 rule. It also means that statistically, hard word to say when you have slept 2 hours, statistically, if you run a campaign with less than 13 creators, your odds of having no ROI are really high, right? So the $15 billion question now that you're all asking, and we asked, is can you predict who's the 20% and who's the 80%, right? Can you predict who you should work with versus who you should kind of avoid and never work with? And we're a data company. We have big algorithms we've developed around understanding fraud and understanding that kind of predictive analytics and who that is. And yet, when we looked at the data, it kept baffling us over and over again. So rather than showing you big data, here's just a simple example. The person on the left, these are 2 creators that worked on the same campaign for the same cosmetic brand. So cosmetic category here in this case. The creator on the left generated 79,000 views. Real impressions, not airy-fairy opportunities to see. Impressions. The creator on the right, 9,349. Qualified impressions, which we define as impressions against that marketer's target market by age, by geography, and by gender. So much more qualified on the right than on the left. 10 times more people from the marketer's target markets were on the left. The person on the left generated twice as many clicks, and yet 10 times less sales. That makes no sense, right? Like it's really like, how can you make sense of that data all of a sudden when it's a more qualified audience, more traffic, less sales, bigger audience? It just kind of doesn't add up, right? She also created more content, because if you look at the kind of ratio between impressions and followers, you can kind of assume that she created more content. She created about 3 times more content than the other one, in fact. So we ran thousands of data points using both our data and external data to try to understand which metrics actually matter and which one really make a difference when it comes to sales. And we used everything: frequency and exposure, date and time of post, engagement rate, product category, audience fit, size of discount, exclusivity, whether that person works with other marketers or not, weather and news to try to understand, I don't know, the bikinis sell better in like warm weather or cold weather and those kind of things. But the truth is, none of them were actually correlated or made any sense with regard to being able to build a predictive model, at least not on their own. So we kept building our platform, talking to marketers, looking at which ones were successful, and try to find patterns like through the stories that we saw in the platform. And one of those was this campaign that was run by Zara in South Africa, where they used 600 creators that were unproven, had no track record. Micro, nano influencers that had never worked with brands before, but that had content that they just liked aesthetically. They felt like it was aligned to the brand, and that represented the diversity of South Africa. And what they did is these 600 creators, they met with them. They invited them to a VIP shopping experience online. They allowed them to buy clothing, get it delivered in beautiful packaging, and basically be able to shop on the Zara online store before anyone else in South Africa could. So they made them feel special. They made them feel like rewarded. And through that, this campaign blew up. This campaign was the most spoken about campaign ever in South Africa when it comes to influencer marketing. It generated a huge amount of sales, and it trended #1 worldwide on Twitter, which for South Africa just doesn't make much sense. We even had Meltwater creating a PR article about this campaign, and I think trying to associate with it in some way. I'm disconnected. It's okay. I'll just go with what I remember I'm supposed to say. What we also did is we started changing our platform according to feedback we were getting from creators. And creators were saying to us, I don't know how I'm performing. Like, the brand has all the details. I don't know if I'm selling. I don't know how many clicks I'm getting. Like, I can see some insights, but I don't really know what I'm doing for this brand and if it's going according to what they asked us to do. So we refined the brief to make it a lot simpler and easier for brands to explain to the creators what they want to achieve and whether they're close to that KPI or not. And we allow them to see real-time data about what is the impact on sales for that brand. So in real time, the creator can see how many units are being shipped, which of the followers are buying. And what we started seeing is that the creators that had access to this technology became a lot more responsive to marketers because they feel that they have to prove themselves an influencer. And secondly, they're empowered to make more money. So if they have an affiliate deal with if they have a deal with the marketer where they've got a sales commission attached, all of a sudden they started producing a lot more content and generating a lot more money because they have an idea about what they're doing. And really the key to that was unlocking the motivation from the creator on both sides. Understanding that making the creator feel special on the one hand and making them feel like a valued partner, and on the other hand, having access to data to understand what they're doing for the brand were two things that were allowing brands to have better relationship with them. And so ultimately, what we kind of figured out as an insight, and we're still working on that as a larger study, is that it's less important who you pick as your partner and more important how you treat them. And so that motivation and that relationship with the creator and the brands is not only about finding that person, but also ultimately how you onboard them, how you manage them, and how you build that partnership and that relationship with them. Not about the number of followers they have, and not about if they have a perfect audience fit for you or not, right? It's about how you build that relationship together. And these were the things that we identified from a survey from creators that were the most important thing for them as to what would help them achieve that level of motivation so that they can achieve better ROI for brands. So, key takeouts. 3 things that I want you to kind of think about and remember, right? Follower amount doesn't relate to any form of marketing ROI. Don't use it as a basis for price. And I say that, and I know how hard it is to do that because everybody's going to use that. Like, share it, tell everybody about it, but they'll still use it, right? It's like the #1 currency in this industry, and yet it doesn't relate to anything. So it's like a change we've got to make to the industry, but it's really difficult to make it because it's still the most prevalent, easiest number to see and what everybody bases price on. 20% of creators will bring 80% of your sales, so diversify your risk, right? And finally, create a motivation. And so what that really means is that as marketers, we're dealing with this very volatile industry. It's like investing money in a stock, in cryptocurrency, or in like a very volatile economy. And so my advice to this is take advice from investors that understand, take advice from like a different industry, for example, financial investment, and look at how people do that from how they minimize their risk and try to make sure they can have positive ROI within that. So these are all advice from a famous investor. I'm sure many of you will recognize it. But the first one is look at the fundamentals behind the numbers. Don't just look at someone's number of followers. Don't just look at the audience fit. Figure out why those numbers make sense for you as a potential partner, but also how they got to those numbers. Secondly, diversify your portfolio and think long-term. Don't just assume that somebody posted one story and didn't get any sales, means that they won't get any sales in the future, or that your 2 creators that you're working with are definitely going to get you ROI. Have a big portfolio. If you've got like a small budget, then spread it. Don't have it like just in one place. Spread it across multiple creators and make sure you get bang for your buck across these different guys and allow them enough time to show you what those results will be. Past performance of one creator, I didn't mention earlier because my notes had disappeared, but past performance of one creator doesn't equate future performance of the same creator on the same brand either, right? The same as like a normal stock option that you might buy or an asset manager. And then finally, it takes 5 minutes. It takes a lifetime to build a good reputation, but 5 minutes to destroy it, right? So don't focus on the short term. Focus on your reputation. Focus on building great relationship with creators and making them want to work with you and celebrate you as a partner. That's it. And that's you. Did I answer your question about the categories earlier?
Good.
Any questions?
Thanks. I'm Ella, and thanks for that wonderful presentation. Definitely sort of sparks a lot of questions. And it reminds me of sort of our approach when it comes to organic, just trying to keep that always on approach. So, my question to you is when it comes to like the timing, because you mentioned like allowing some time, do you have any data to support? Sort of how much time that we want to allow. And I know you talked about sort of spreading the budget across, I think of it as different archetypes, influencer archetypes. So like, and I saw a chart on there that it had like week 1 through week 4. Do you have any data to support like for that long, say like a year long always on program, what type of timing? And then my second question is, from a pricing standpoint and like compensation, right? What you're talking about, would that be like contracting maybe micro influencers, or the tier doesn't matter, just contracting influencers for the long run, and then sort of seeing how frequency of posting and the relationship sort of builds to the ROI?
Okay. So you only get one. Pick one. First question. No. Second question. So no, we haven't seen that data, and what I'll say about that is you're still talking about humans talking to humans. No, brand reference intended here. And you'll get a gut feel about whether those creators are embracing your brand and doing a positive job taking it to the social media channels and relating to you professionally. And so just like an employee in a business or a partner in your business, you want to give it enough time for them to get a feel for working with you and be able to create value for you. And then you'll see whether they're creating value for you. If you were hiring an agency, how would you decide like whether you're going to keep them or not, right? You're going to look at the KPIs and whether they're achieving them, but you're also going to get a feel for whether you believe for your relationship with them, they have the potential to achieve those KPIs. So the same with creators. They're partners, and you need to treat them with that same, like a combination of looking at the data, but also getting a gut feel for whether you feel that that relationship might lead to great things or not. And, again, not to get into a product talk, but what we do is we allow everybody to like aggregate all the data in one place. So if you're L'Oreal or Unilever, you might have 7, 8, 10 different agencies and different partners you're working with across hundreds of creators. So if you have all your data in one place, then you can start seeing those patterns and seeing, well, most creators start delivering results within 3 months or 3 weeks, or that 20% like normally curves within that amount of time. So you've got that data for your own brand, for your own category, and you can start making those decisions and having those conversations. But what's important is having the conversations and saying, hey, it's not working. Why do you think it's not working? And if you put the responsibility on the creator, and then they'll respond to it. And if they don't respond to it, then they're probably not the right partner in the first place. You probably don't want to work with somebody like this, right? So does that answer your first question more or less? Good. Question number 2, I forgot.
It's actually like, are you talking about paid influencers that you contracted for like a long period of time? Because to inspire content creation and so sometimes right? As opposed to organic.
So you can, so great question. And you can have multiple incentives when it comes to creators. And those incentives will vary for each creator in terms of how they value them. And so what I mean by that is, you can pay creators a flat fee for creating the content. You can pay them like a retainer for like being a brand ambassador. You can give them an affiliate commission for like helping you sell your products. You can give them free products. You can also invite them to events and networking and give them other opportunities. But you need to find the right blend of those different things that's going to make a difference for that creator. We have a board of advisors that's made up of a whole lot of creators who are also investors in our business. And one of those is a lady called Pearl Tusi, who's like a famous actress in South Africa. And I use that example all the time. If you tell Pearl that she's got to go to a Puma store opening, she's going to tell you, hey, my rate is $10,000 an hour. Please pay me for that. If you tell her Pharrell's also attending, she'll be like, I'll be there right now. Right? So it's like, and you can't have any predictive analytics model is going to tell you this. It's also about that relationship with the creator and finding ways to get out of the transactional model. The transactional model is important around like deliverables, like specific deliverables over one task, right? You agree in a contract. But the overall relationship shouldn't be transactional.
Hi, I'm Marnie. Thank you so much for all of your insight. I work for Sony, and we often partner with influencer marketing firms. And I was just curious about what some of the things that you look for in terms of what a platform is offering, like for the best influencer experience. So, like, how do you know that you're going to walk into something authentic before you sign on with one of these firms?
So are you talking about agencies or platforms, like self-service?
Agencies. So like when we work, we're working with someone who's helping us put together an influencer campaign, but we haven't met the influencers yet. So we're going based off of what they're telling us. But of course, in the end, it's still a sales partnership and working together. So how do you find that nugget of authenticity before you agree?
That's a tough question. I don't know if I have the straight answer to that. But what I will say is, at the end of the day, there's many intermediaries that are involved in this space. The influencers might have talent managers that represent them, and you might have an agency that helps you with selection and management. But at the end of the day, the influencers or the creators are going to be working with your brand. And if they don't have a sense of having a relationship with your brand and your team, then you're probably doing yourself a disservice, because they don't know you, they're not loyal to you, you're not building that relationship. My brother is a global global director for champagnes. I don't remember his title. He's like a big dog at Pernod Ricard, and he deals with champagnes globally. And he's got a team of like 60 people that report to him, but he meets and talks with every single creator like that works on the brand, like worldwide. Like not, either it's at events or it's just like reaching out to them, but try to understand who they are and try to make them feel like they're valued partners. So have the people and the agencies there to help you with the legwork and the selection and dealing with the millions of data points that you're looking at. But at the end of the day, make sure you're also building that relationship with the creators on your side. And the last thing I'll say is, and you might have gotten from my presentation, but there's a lot of bullshit in this space. There's a ton of bullshit. And anybody who tells you that they know everything is full of shit. So just look out for that.
Thank you.
1 and 2.
So I know you said that when you were looking to figure out what, I guess, metrics that you would be using to determine if the relationship is working out or how to choose the right influencer. When I'm doing like the discovery phase of influencer campaigns or just like benchmarking them throughout, I always look at engagement rate, but I saw you had that X'd out. So how do you, I guess, determine like who you would want to work with ahead of time if you're not looking at engagement rate, or throughout if you're benchmarking, like what do you benchmark against? Or
I love this question.
Okay.
So engagement rate is like another one of those bullshit metrics in terms of how it's being presented.
Right.
Engagement rate, if you think about it, it's a like or a comment. So it just means that somebody reacted to it. So it's a measure of attention, but it's not a measure of consideration. So if you're selling, I don't know what you're selling. Like,
I work with liquor brands.
so you're selling, okay, so gin.
Yes.
Right, you're selling gin. If somebody goes, I like this post, it doesn't mean that they like your brand. And if somebody responds, oh, you look so hot on the post, it doesn't mean that they like your brand either, and that they're talking about you. So it's a measure of attention and that people actually saw the content rather than a measure of consideration and success of the content. But it's being portrayed typically as if it's got high engagement, it's successful. That doesn't mean that. It just means it caught more people's attention, but maybe not for the right reasons. So it's not correlated at the end of the day to sales ROI because it's not correlated as well to that potential success of the campaign.
So then what do you look for to?
So the two criteria outside of motivation that we found were really closely correlated, like two like practical hints that you can look at. One is how niche is this person? And if they're really niche, it probably means that the audience is also very related to that. So have a look at who their real and active audience is made up of, and if they're really in that niche, and then if you've got that kind of like fit, there's probably like a good chance that the people are following that person because of what they talk about and they fit that. The second thing is look at how active they are in comments with responding to people. The Fat Jewish yesterday said he responds to everyone's DM. I DM'd him, he didn't respond, so he's also full of shit. But but the point is, he says he replies to people's comments and he engages with them. And that shows that that person is active within that community, active with the audience, and they're not just posting for the likes and for themselves, but rather they have that kind of potential influence. So those are like small little things. They were not correlated more than 50% to anything, but they were just slightly higher in beating out everything else. Are we out of time?
One more time.
All right.
So I'm curious, you talked a lot about like unlocking creator motivation, and I think probably a lot of us in this room work for global companies. Do you find that creator motivation is different per country, per region, or is it the same across the board?
No, it's different. It's very different per country and per region, and it depends also on where that creative fits in terms of their own growth. So we work a lot in emerging markets as opposed to the US, and we're finding that here, for example, it's a lot harder to get creator motivated than it is, say, in South Africa or India or Brazil. We have very young populations, high unemployment rates, and people are looking for jobs like at a much higher rate. Whereas here in the US, from what I understand, people are not like great resignation, right? And people are not keen to work. I definitely felt that when I was getting service at a restaurant yesterday. So you got a different dynamic already from that perspective. So when you're a brand in an emerging market and you're saying, we want to work with you, people are like, wow, this is awesome, great opportunity, and a chance for me to make money. But I'll refer you back to there's this guy who's he's a product manager for, I think he's at Reddit now, or he's at Twitch. He was at Reddit and went to Twitch, or was at Twitch and went to Reddit. His name is Peter Yang. And he's got on his blog this thing called the Creator Hierarchy of Needs, which is like a pyramid model that he's built that talks about how, as a creator, you go through these different stages. The first, the need to find your niche, like develop your voice and understand what you want to post about over time. Then to grow your audience. Then from growing your audience, to start monetizing with brands. Then from there, to start diversifying your revenue streams and building your own revenue streams outside of like brand sponsorships and using that seed money from brands to create your own revenues. So if you know where that creative fits, make sure that the incentives you offer them are aligned to their hierarchy of needs. That would be my advice. Okay, I think that's it.
I think so. Everyone give a round of applause to Pierre and our partners at Humans. Thank you so much, Pierre.